How's it going, guys? Well, this is video number 3 in my series where I'm going through and replacing all the decals on my bike, including the forks, frame, and the rear shock. So if you haven't seen the other 2 videos, in my frame video, which will be linked at the end of this video, I'll go through more details on how to go about lining up the decals so you can get them in the factory specific spots to give it the cleanest look possible. Before you do anything, I'm going to highly recommend that you have a torque wrench above everything. The bolts that are holding on your shock are going to need to be set at specific torque ratings that are set by the factory. Make sure you're aware of what those settings are, because when you put them back on, you don't want to strip the bolts, because it's going to be very expensive to replace. So you'll notice that I let all the air pressure off of the shock, which will allow you to remove it. You don't want to try to remove it while it's under pressure. That will end badly. Once you get the shock off of the bike, you're going to need to give it a good wipe down with isopropyl alcohol just to make sure you get all the debris off so that you'll get a good adhesion from your decals to your shock. Just a word of warning, you probably want to push the O-ring up to the body of the shock, that way it doesn't fall off the end of the stanchion. I don't imagine it'd be super hard to replace them, but why go through all that headache when you just got to make sure you push it up and out of the way. Now I'm using the same trick that I used on the previous videos, where you put the painter's tape down to get a straight edge so you know where to line your decal up with. That way when you're putting down the new decal, it ends up in the exact same place that it was in straight out of the factory. So it's just a little tip that's a time saver, makes it a little bit easier once you put the decals on to make sure they're lined up correctly the first time. And now I'm repeating the same process on the body of the shock. I'm placing the painter's tape down, getting that straight edge. This time I'm going to use a line just to make sure that I get the back of the sticker in the right spot. However, this part of the shock is going to be hidden, so you're not going to see it when it's on the bike. I just want to make sure that I get it done right the first time so that it looks good and I don't have to worry about it being crooked or an eyesore later on. Now there is a third decal on the Fox DPX2, but it has the name of the shock on it, and I don't really want to switch that one out to the generic Fox sticker. So I'm going to leave it with the one that's color matched to my bike, which is the Muddy Waters color, and it still fits with the gray, blue, and black colors that I have on my bike. So rather than messing with that one, I'm going to leave it just as it is, and I think it looks pretty good. Now this is a disclaimer. I mentioned it earlier on. My bike requires 85 foot-pounds of torque when tightening down these bolts. If you don't have a torque wrench, this is not something you should try without it. There is no reason that you should try and do all this work if you don't have the ability to set it correctly, and you end up damaging your very expensive shock and have to spend money to have all of that fixed. You've probably noticed that as I'm adding air back into the shock, I'm grabbing the rear tire and lifting it up to start cycling the air through the chambers. You're going to keep repeating that process until you reach 20% sag. So that's pretty much it. This is my third decal replacement video. Hopefully this series has been helpful for you guys. You're just trying to freshen up the look of your bike. If it's been helpful, by all means, please hit me with a like and a subscribe, and I'll keep these videos coming. Thanks again.